recusing yourself, and you didn't tell the White House that you recused yourself. And that bothers me because that explanation, one, I think is insufficient.
We will break away here with the reminder this continues. The hearing continues live at cspan.org and over on C-SPAN 3. The House is gaveling back in for 3 votes. Live coverage next on C-SPAN.
The rules of the U.S. House of Representatives. The clerk received the following message from the Secretary of the Senate on May 15, 2013 at 4:23 p.m. that the Senate pass Senate 601. Signed sincerely, Karen L. Haas.
Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, proceedings will resume on motions to suspend the rules previously postponed. Votes will be taken in the following order: H.R. 767 by the yeas and nays, H.R. 701 by the yeas and nays, and H.R. 384 by the yeas and nays. The first electronic vote will be conducted as a 15-minute vote. Remaining electronic votes will be conducted as 5-minute votes. The unfinished business is the House vote on the motion of the gentleman from Utah, Mr. Bishop, to suspend the rules and pass H.R. 767 as amended, on which the yeas and nays are ordered. The clerk will report the title of the bill.
Union Calendar Number 33, H.R. 767, a bill to amend the Energy Policy Act of 2005 to modify the pilot project offices of the Federal Permit Streamlining Pilot Project.
The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass the bill as amended? Members will record their votes by electronic device, and this is a 15-minute vote.
The House was in earlier today debating 5 bills. Roll call votes here on 3 of them, including one here amending the Energy Projects Act's 15-minute vote. 2 more 5-minute votes will follow this. You may have heard the clerk mention the message from the Senate. The Senate today passed the Corps of Engineers Water Projects bill earlier today in the Senate. Also coming up tomorrow in the U.S. House, they will take up legislation calling for the repeal of the 2010 health care law. The Rules Committee just reported out the rule for debate tomorrow, which will be 2 hours of general debate. All of that debate, the rule debate and the general debate tomorrow in the U.S. House. The debate on that legislation was part of one of the topics addressed by Speaker Boehner and other House Republican leadership earlier today. They held a news conference. They talked about that, and they also talked about some of the issues that came up in today's hearing with Attorney General Eric Holder. Here's their briefing from earlier today.
Oh, good. Out of the bride.
We waiting on me? Americans need common sense solutions to help create jobs, and they need accountability from their government, and the House is working to give them both. Our jobs plan has been out there, and we're going to continue to focus on it. This week we'll be repealing Obamacare. Why? Because it's going to raise the cost of health care, raise the cost of health insurance, reduce access to the American people, and continues to get in the way of employers hiring new workers. In addition to that, I think the American people deserve the truth and fairness from their government. I want to applaud Chairman Issa and the Government Reform Committee for all of their work last week on Benghazi, trying to get to the bottom of what happened. The administration that could make this a lot easier for all Americans by coming forward with emails that they've shown us in some cases, but have not turned over to us. And I don't want to prolong this any more than anyone else. What I want is the truth. In addition to that, the IRS has admitted to targeting conservatives, even if the White House continues to be stuck on the word if. Now, my question isn't about who's going to resign. My question is, who's going to jail over this scandal?
Good morning. Obviously, there have been a lot of questions raised over the last several days that the news has, I think, awakened the public, beginning to raise questions in their minds as to the direction of this government, as really to whom is this government accountable. And we're going to proceed, obviously, in our work here in the House, bearing in mind that we've got to restore the trust in government and we've got to restore the faith in our economy. And there are questions that are being answered, and we are accountable to the families of the victims in Benghazi. We certainly are accountable to the taxpayers and the people of this country as to the actions of the IRS. And we certainly have plenty of questions that are accountable to the press in terms of its First Amendment rights and its ability to enjoy those and realize those. You know, we've got plenty of action, though, on the floor this week. Obamacare repeal is there again because we do not believe that an individual mandate is the direction. Washington-based health care is the direction we ought to go. And we also are going to be working on an SEC Accountability Act. This is a bill coming out of the Financial Services Committee. It is a bill that the President's former Jobs Council said is necessary in terms of creating the conditions to create jobs. So I'm hopeful that we can get a bipartisan vote on that, coming together on the one thing that people are continuing to wonder, and that is Washington concerned about the future of this economy?
American public is wondering, instead of Washington spending their time researching based upon your political beliefs or your economics or your job, that maybe they should be focusing on how job creation. One thing that the President can do when he wants to look for something bipartisan in job creation is the Keystone Pipeline. 20,000 jobs could be created with that single approval. Now, tomorrow is an anniversary, 1,700 days since it's applied. 1,700 days. 15,000 pages have been reviewed. Instead of reviewing the American people, what they do with their politics, let's find ways that we should review and make the jobs created. Now, if you question, can it pass the House? We've proven it can. Can it pass the Senate? Yes. In March, the vote was 62-37. 17 Democrats voted for it. The report came back, said it was minimal environmental impact, but a maximum impact on 20,000 jobs. The election is over. The time now, Mr. President, is to focus on job creation and get the administration working in the right direction. And I believe Keystone is the place we should focus.
What the American people expect from their government is accountability, and they expect us to create an environment where the economy will prosper. And when President Obama's health care law, his proposal became law, 2,400 pages became law, he told us that it was going to lower cost, improve quality, lower premiums, cover anyone that had a pre-existing conditions, and for those under 26, they would now have health care. But, you know, today, as we pull back the curtain on this law, what we see and what the American people see is that Obamacare is actually making it worse. The President promised that premiums would go down. In fact, he said that premiums on the average American family would go down $2,500. And what we're seeing already is that for the average American family, premiums have gone up by $3,000. The President promised that those with pre-existing conditions would now be covered. Unfortunately, less than 1% of those with pre-existing conditions were able to sign up for the very program that was made available to them before the President announced they were out of money. The President promised that his plan was going to lead to all Americans having access to health insurance. And yet CBO has already analyzed that when this law is fully implemented, there will be 30 million people still uninsured. Clearly, this law is making it worse for Americans. from all backgrounds, from all walks of life, from every corner of this country. It imposes higher cost. It is limiting access. It's very difficult to find a doctor who will take a new Medicare patient right now. It is threatening the very health innovation and medical technology that this country has led. So that's why I'm proud that the House Republicans this week are voting to repeal this law. And we are committed to working to replace it with the kind of health care reforms that are going to help Americans, not hurt them.
Washington gone wild is what many Kansans are thinking this morning as they read the headlines, and it's very disturbing to watch all of these scandals unfold, whether it's the concerns about Benghazi, the abuse at the IRS, Secretary Sebelius making calls, soliciting donations from people she will be regulating, to the DOJ and the AP phone records. It makes us miss the days of Harry Truman when the buck stopped at the president's office. But I'm pleased this week the House will be doing something positive to try to turn this economy around by teeing up a repeal of the Obamacare law. As Kathy just laid out, the American people were promised so many things, and they were misled. We've seen over $1 trillion in tax increases because of the health care law, cuts to Medicare Advantage to prop up the law. We've seen premiums, rather than being decreased, increasing to the tune of $3,000. But probably most importantly, this has been a drag on the economy and jobs. The uncertainty surrounding the president's health care law has cost about 7 million jobs, or will cost millions and millions of jobs, and it has already proven to a lot of people that we will have layoffs. So I'm pleased that the House will be teeing up the repeal vote today.
Well, after months of misleading testimony and evasive answers to the question about whether or not the IRS was targeting taxpayers and entities based on their political beliefs, they've now been caught red-handed. And if we're going to get accountability back in this government, which is critical, you have to have accountability to create certainty, then we're going to get to the bottom of this. And I can tell you right now that this culture of rot and abuse at the IRS is going to be rooted out. The Ways and Means Committee is going to be working with the other committees in Congress to ensure that this happens and that a full accounting of what happened is made to the American people. Thank you.
Questions?
Mr. Speaker, you represent the Cincinnati area. Do you have a concern, or have you heard from constituents that some of those IRS employees there are being scapegoated at decisions that were actually made here in Washington?
I've not. I don't have any personal direct knowledge of that, but I'm going to thank Dr. Bustani and Mr. Jordan from Ohio, who have been spearheading this effort to get to the bottom of it. And frankly, their questions go back over a year, and so it's time for answers.
I would like to put your question back to you. Given that most of these are civilian employees, that it's not, and that it was found that there really was no political motivation, it was in some ways just laziness, who should go to jail?
Well, there are laws in place to prevent this type of abuse. Someone made a conscious decision to harass and to hold up these requests for tax-exempt status. I think we need to know who they are, whether they violated the law. Clearly, someone violated the law.
Speaker Boehner, obviously this must have some type of impact in the House GOP in the White House. Has this poisoned the well for any type of major legislation moving forward with because of lack of trust? And has this helped your 2014 prospects in terms of increasing your margin?
We have a twofold job here in the Congress. We need to keep focused on the priorities of the American people, and those priorities are the fact that we're not creating jobs quick enough, and we've got stagnant wages in our country. And so the issue of jobs and legislation to help create a better economy, it continues to be our #1 focus. In addition to that, we have a responsibility under the Constitution to provide oversight of the executive branch. And we're going to continue to do both of our jobs as outlined by the Constitution. But when it comes to dealing with the White House, whether it's on the accountability side or on the job side, I'm going to do everything I can to try to get cooperation from them to advance both of our agendas.
Do you trust the President?
Is there any situation what you think would be justified to take phone records from a news organization like the DOJ?
Let me tell you, I'm very interested and I'm hopeful that we're going to get a clear explanation for why such unprecedented action was taken. It befuddles me that there could be some justification that would allow them to infringe on the First Amendment to the Constitution. Thanks, everybody.
Good job, sir.
House Republicans from earlier today on the House floor, the first of 3 votes. In that briefing, they talked about Attorney General Eric Holder. He just wrapped up 4 hours before the House Judiciary Committee. Benghazi among the topics, and the White House this afternoon releasing 100 pages of emails and notes on the Benghazi attack. The FBI director will be on Capitol Hill testifying tomorrow. He's likely to get questions about that, and C-SPAN will cover that. Here on the House floor, this is the first of 3 votes. Tomorrow in the House, they will take up a bill repealing the 2010 health care law. The rules came out this afternoon, the Rules Committee. The rule for debate, 2 hours of general debate tomorrow. There will also be rule of debate ahead of that, and we'll have all of that live, of course, for you tomorrow. The issue of repealing the health care law came up on the Senate floor this morning in Harry Reid's opening speech.
Albert Einstein, the great Albert Einstein, defined insanity as follows: doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. That's what Albert Einstein said. If his definition is true, and I'm not to argue with Einstein, the House Republicans have truly lost their minds. This week, the House of Representatives will vote for the 37th time. Mr. President, 37th time. What are they voting on 37 times? Exactly the same thing. They're voting to repeal the landmark constitutional health care reform bill known as Obamacare now. And I say that proudly. After last year's election, Speaker Boehner conceded that Obamacare is here to stay. Here's what he said, and I quote, "It's pretty clear that the President was reelected." I think that's a fair statement. He went on to say, "Obama is the law of the land." Again, the Speaker said, it's pretty clear that President Obama was reelected and Obamacare is the law of the land. So, no matter what he said then, this is now, and he's changed his mind. The House will waste yet another week on another dead-end repeal vote. Perhaps Republicans think the 37th time is the charm. 37 times on the exact same thing. Tea Party extremists bullied the Speaker into holding yet another vote to repeal the Affordable Care Act and roll back benefits for tens of millions of Americans. This is what the Speaker said last week. This is a quote. "We've got 70 new members who have not had an opportunity to vote on the President's health care law. Frankly, they've been asking for an opportunity to vote on it." Close quote. Mr. President, this political kabuki has tied up the floor of the House of Representatives for weeks and cost the American taxpayers $52.4 million and counting. These are figures compiled by CBS News. Just wasting 37 votes of all the House staff and all other personnel that have responsibilities for making sure that place runs as well as it does. That money, $52.4 million, is enough to restore funding for 19 million meals for homebound seniors, or 6,900 children dropped from the Head Start program. But while the vote may be political theater, it does have one benefit. The American people will know where the freshman class of House Republicans stand. I think we know, but they'll get another opportunity to see this. Do they stand with millions of Americans who are already benefiting from Obamacare? We know that answer. Or do they stand with insurance companies? We know that answer. The insurance companies who would like nothing better than to have things the way they used to be, than to once again deny coverage to sick children, impose lifetime caps on care, and discriminate against those with pre-existing conditions. Since President Obama signed the Affordable Care Act into law, insurance companies can no longer put profits ahead of people. One of the provisions in this bill says that of premiums paid to insurance companies for health care, 80% of those benefits must go to patients. No longer, as they did, 50% of the premium goes for salaries, bonuses, and other perks for insurance executives. No longer. Insurance companies can no longer discriminate against children with pre-existing conditions. They can no longer raise your rates for no reason. They can no longer drop your coverage if you get sick. Mr. President, that's what happened. But this week, for the 37th time, House Republicans will try to change all that. Here are a few of the other benefits already in effect that House Republicans would eliminate. In Nevada, Mr. President, we're not a heavily populated state like Massachusetts or California or New York, but we're getting bigger. We have about 3 million people. In Nevada alone, tens of thousands of seniors have saved tens of millions of dollars on medicines because the Affordable Care Act closed the gap on prescription drugs. That means millions of seniors across this country have more money in their pockets for food, gas, electric bills. More than 3 million young people because of Obamacare, including 33,000 young Nevadans, have benefited from a provision in the law that allows children to stay on their parents' health plans until they're 26 years old. That means no person will have to worry about getting sick while looking for a job that offers insurance. Or they can go to college. Mr. President, in my little town of Searchlight, Nevada, a boy made a decision. Was he going to join the military, very patriotic family, or should he go to school? And he made the decision he was going to go to school. And the family is not one of means. His mom worked part-time in a post office, and his dad worked at a power plant about 40 miles from Searchlight. They were so happy. This boy was going to go to college, the first person in their family to go to college. And he did extremely well. Finished 1 year, he's in his second year, and he started feeling some discomfort. He had testicular cancer. The time had passed. He was 23 years old, no longer could be on his parents' insurance. They had no insurance to cover this cancer that their son had, their youngest boy. And they begged and borrowed and literally, I shouldn't say begged, they didn't do that, but they had a difficult time. He had needed 2 surgeries. The Republicans in the House, I guess, want to go back to that. Maybe the Republicans here, they love voting against Obamacare provisions, want to go back to a time when that boy, Jeff, would no longer have insurance. That's what they want. These people, these young men and women who are trying to go to college, get a job, they want to go back to that time. It's 3 extra years now, Mr. President. That means a lot. Under Obamacare, hundreds of thousands of businesses that already offer their employees health insurance are getting tax credits for doing the right thing. That means small business owners can spend their capital on growing their firms instead of growing insurance premiums. Thanks to the Affordable Care Act, insurance companies can no longer set arbitrary lifetime caps on benefits, as they did. What does that mean? There's a provision hidden in that policy they sold you that when your benefits reach $50,000, coverage stops. It doesn't matter if you've been hurt in an automobile accident or you had cancer or some other dread disease. It used to stop. Not anymore. Because of the Affordable Care Act, millions of Americans are no longer one car accident or heart attack away from bankruptcy. Today, children can no longer be denied coverage because they're born with a disease or a disability, a protection that will soon extend to all Americans. And soon, being a woman will no longer be a pre-existing condition. I said it right, Mr. President. No longer will being a woman be a pre-existing condition. My daughter has a pre-existing condition. Why? She's a woman, but no longer.
The yeas are 415, the nays are 1. 2/3 being in the affirmative. The rules are suspended, the bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. The House will be in order. The House will be in order. Members will take their seats. The House will be in order. If members could please take their seats. The chair lays before the House a communication.
The Honorable the Speaker, House of Representatives. Sir, I have the honor to transmit herewith a copy of the certificate of election received from the Honorable Mark Hammond, Secretary of the State of South Carolina, indicating that at the special election held May 7, 2013, the Honorable Mark Sanford was duly elected representative in Congress for the 1st Congressional District, State of South Carolina. Signed sincerely, Karen L. Haas.
The House will be in order. Will Representative-elect Sanford and the members of the South Carolina delegation please present themselves in the well of the House. Will all members rise? And the representative-elect raise his right hand. Mr. Sanford. Do you solemnly swear that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that you will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that you take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that you will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which you are about to enter, so help you God. Congratulations. You are now a member of the 113th Congress. Without objection, the gentleman from South Carolina, Mr. Wilson, is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, South Carolina is very fortunate. Due to the quality of life in South Carolina, tens of thousands are moving to the Palmetto State from the Midwest and Northeast and from around the world. South Carolina has gained a new seat in Congress to include the communities of Myrtle Beach and Florence, now held by Tom Rice. This new 7th district rotated all districts, creating a unique district of the 1st. The 1st district of South Carolina is virtually 10 miles wide along the Atlantic coast, from McClellanville in Charleston County to Defusky Island in Beaufort County. It's a special district to Tom and myself, and that we were both born in Charleston, America's most historic city. The district is a composite of America. In the district's first election, Tim Scott was elected as only the second African American from South Carolina elected to Congress in 100 years. We're grateful Governor Nikki Haley appointed Congressman Tim Scott to serve in the U.S. Senate. This created a replacement primary with 16 participants, the largest number ever in a congressional primary. We're here today to recognize the survivor of the primary, the runoff, and general election, Congressman Mark Sanford. I yield to Congressman David Price of North Carolina.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. Mr. Speaker, I rise in place of the Dean of the South Carolina delegation, Congressman Jim Clyburn, who's away this week on family medical leave, and asked me to read this statement, and I'm quoting. Swearing-in day is always about new beginnings. In that spirit, I want to extend the hand of collegiality to Mark Sanford as he begins a new chapter of service to the people of South Carolina and this great country in the U.S. House of Representatives. Though our past differences have been widely chronicled, and we bring different sets of experiences to the public square, I will always work to find common ground as we fulfill our duties and responsibilities to the people who sent us here. End of quote. So, Mr. Speaker, Mark Sanford's colleagues in the Carolinas delegations join Mr. Clyburn in wishing Mark well and welcoming him back to the House. And I yield back.
I yield to Congressman Mark Sanford of the 1st District of South Carolina.
Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the House of Representatives of the United States Congress, I look forward to working with each one of you. Republican and Democrat, different perspectives we may hold. But at the end of the day, we are here to represent the people of South Carolina, and I look forward to going about that business with you. I see friends like Elliot Engel, who were so kind to call me in the wake of the events of 2009. Democrat that he may be, I see a whole host of Republicans, long friends, and it is indeed an honor to be back with each one of you. I look forward to working with you on a whole host of issues. Obviously, greatest among them for me will be efforts to get our financial house back in order here in Washington, D.C., but above all else, here on this day, I'm simply humbled to be here. And each one of our lives involve different journeys, but on that journey, I think that we can, in essence, be taken to places wherein we develop levels of appreciation perhaps that we never had before. And so I stand here before each one of you more appreciative than I ever could have been for the honor of working with each one of you here in the United States Congress, the Congress of the nation most blessed of all nations here on this earth. I stand before you most appreciative of the people of the 1st Congressional District of South Carolina that Joe just alluded to, people who have taught me a whole lot about love and humility, about wisdom, and about grace. I stand before you, I guess, with a whole new appreciation, indeed, for a God of second chances, and how in the events of our life, up or down they may be, how every one of us can be refined as human beings in that process. I stand before you as a human being most appreciative in whole new ways for the significance of family and friends. And in that regard, I see Belen up there, and I see my sons Marshall and Landon. I see my sister Sarah and her husband Bill. I see my mom Peg. I see a long list of different friends. And I would thank them for their presence here to share this day. I would thank a long list of friends, whether that's Buff Chase, who I've known for the whole of my life, or somebody like Joe Taylor, who was my Secretary of Commerce while I was governor. In essence, each one of them are emissaries, representatives to thousands who were so kind to hold me up through the last couple of years and to be instrumental in this election that brought me to this very place. Above all else, though, I'm simply humbled to be here, and I look forward to working with each one of you. I yield back the balance of my time. Thank you.
Under Clause 5D of Rule 20, the Chair announces to the House that in light of the administration of the oath to the gentleman from South Carolina, the whole number of the House is now 434. Without objection, 5-minute voting will continue. The unfinished business is the vote on the motion of the gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. McHenry, to suspend the rules and pass H.R. 701 as amended, on which the yeas and nays were ordered. The clerk will report the title of the bill.
H.R. 701, a bill to amend a provision of the Securities Act of 1933, directing the Securities and Exchange Commission to add a particular class of securities to those exempt under such act, to provide a deadline for such action.
The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass the bill as amended? Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 5-minute vote.
Former South Carolina Governor Mark Sanford sworn in, back representing the 1st District of South Carolina. He previously represented the district from 1995 to 2001, and last week won that special election for the seat that was vacated when Tim Scott went over to the U.S. Senate. He beat Elizabeth Colbert Bush in a special election last week. So now the number in the House, 434, 233 Republicans, 201 Democrats, and one open seat still, that of Mary Jo Emerson of Missouri. Second vote in the House. This is one on a bill debated earlier dealing with calling on the Securities and Exchange Commission to complete certain financial product issue rules. 5-minute vote. One more 5-minute vote will follow. Just a program update in about 20 minutes. President Obama will be speaking in the White House East Room. We understand it's about the IRS situation, the targeting of certain conservative groups. President Obama live on C-SPAN 3 and also on cspan.org. Tomorrow in the House, they will take up a bill sponsored by Michelle Bachmann of Minnesota, which would repeal the 2010 health care law. We spoke to a Capitol Hill reporter about that. Jennifer Haberkorn is health reporter with Politico. Why are House Republicans setting up another vote on repealing the health care law of 2010?
Well, they really got some opposition from their freshman members and the most conservative members saying that the House isn't doing enough to repeal the health law. Obviously, President Obama has been reelected. This is his law, and he's never going to allow repeal to get past his desk. But that doesn't mean that House Republicans don't want to make a statement and make it clear to the public that they continue to fight this law.
How many times have House Republicans tried to repeal the law?
This will be the 37th vote to repeal a portion of the law. There's been 37 votes. Most of them were in the last 3 years, but this will be only the 3rd time that they've attempted full repeal of the law.
What are Republicans saying specifically about the health care law that they say hurts the economy?
Well, you know, it's a lot of things that are going to start to go into effect early next year. There's going to be requirements on employers to either provide coverage or pay penalties. We're already seeing some insurance rates announced this summer for next year. There's likely going to be some increases in rates. They say that's going to hurt the public. So that's why they want to continue to put attention on the law.
So the Democrats have seen this debate before. You mentioned all the other times of attempts at repealing or votes on repeal anyway. What are Democrats saying on this go-round?
They're basically saying this is more of the same and that Congress could spend their time doing better things that help the economy. They say it's silly to waste all this time and taxpayer money on legislation that the Senate isn't going to take up and the President would certainly veto if it ever got that far. So
you mentioned that there are a number of parts of the law that have yet to be implemented. When will the law be fully implemented?
The significant portion will be implemented next year. That's when the requirement to buy insurance or pay a penalty is going to go into effect. That's when employers will have to provide coverage or pay a penalty. And when the insurance exchanges which are the marketplaces where you can buy insurance, will go into effect next year, too.
There was a bill that came up on the House floor that was pulled kind of at the last minute. Can you tell us about that bill and whether it's coming back to the floor?
That was the Helping Sick Americans Now Act, and that bill would have taken some money from the Health Law's Prevention Fund to extend the life of these high-risk insurance pools. One of the first pieces of the law to go into effect was these high-risk pools. They were supposed to provide coverage to very, very sick people who often have a hard time finding insurance. They went into effect back in 2010 and are set to expire at the end of this year. Before these marketplaces that I mentioned earlier are going to go into effect. The White House said that these pools were going to run out of money, so they cut off new enrollees in the pools. Republicans said, you know, this is a mistake. You know, Democrats, obviously it was kind of sarcastic, but said Democrats are leaving the sickest Americans uninsured. So they said that this arrangement, taking money out of the prevention fund into the high-risk pools, was going to help them. But many conservatives and freshman members said that that looked like it was pumping up the health law, and they didn't want to do that, particularly because they hadn't voted on full repeal. So Republicans say that once they vote on full repeal, they could potentially come back to this Helping Sick Americans Act. I think it's yet to be determined whether that's going to be enough to bring those conservative Republicans around, but they're hoping that this is the first step.
Well, in addition to this full repeal bill that's coming up in the House, are there any other health care-related pieces of legislation out there that you're keeping your eye on?
You know, this is the main one right now. I think we're going to see more hits against the health law, but I don't think that's going to be anytime soon.
Jennifer Haberkorn covers health issues for Politico. Read more at Politico.com. Thanks for the update.
Thank you.
On that bill on repealing the health care law comes up for debate on the House floor tomorrow. This is the second of 3 votes on bills they debated earlier today. A bill that deals with directing the SEC to complete certain financial product issue rules. It's a 5-minute vote. One more after this. A reminder, too, President Obama speaking at the White House at 6 o'clock about the IRS and the targeting of certain conservative groups. We'll have live coverage of that on cspan.org, over on C-SPAN 3 as well.
On this vote, the yeas are 416, the nays are 6. 2/3 of those being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended, the bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. The unfinished business is the vote on the motion of the gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. McHenry, to suspend the rules and pass H.R. 384 as amended, on which the yeas and nays are ordered. The clerk will report the title of the bill.
H.R. 384, a bill to establish the position of Special Assistant for Veterans Affairs in the Office of the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development by transferring the Special Assistant for Veterans Affairs to the Office of the Secretary of HUD and for other purposes. The
question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass the bill as amended? Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 5-minute vote.
And it should be the last recorded vote of the day in the House. And they are back tomorrow to take up legislation which would repeal the 2010 health care law, a bill sponsored by Michelle Bachmann of Minnesota. It will get 2 hours of general debate, an hour debate on the rule. Of course, we'll have live coverage here on C-SPAN. Friday in the House, we expect to see a bill sponsored by Scott Garrett of New Jersey, which would require the Securities and Exchange Commission to conduct cost-benefit analysis for new regulations and state why the regulations are needed. So the House in all this week. The Senate's in. They just earlier today passed the Corps of Engineers Water Projects Bill, and that has come over to the House. They also approved 2 judicial nominations. One judicial nomination, that's William Orrick for Northern District of California, and the President's nominee to be administrator for the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. That's Marilyn Tavenner. Both of those nominations approved by the Senate this afternoon. President Obama is speaking in the East Room of the White House in about 10 minutes, talking about the IRS and its coverage, its reporting on targeting of certain conservative groups. The President at 6, that'll be on C-SPAN 3, and also on cspan.org. The Ways and Means Committee in the House had expected to hear from the acting director of the IRS. That hearing was set for Friday. We'll have coverage of that for you on the C-SPAN networks as well.
The yeas are 420, the nays are 3, 2/3 being in the affirmative. The rules are suspended. The bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table, and without objection, the title is amended. For what purpose does the gentleman from Texas rise?
Mr. Speaker, I send to the desk 2 privileged reports from the Committee on Rules for filing under the rule.
The clerk will report the titles.
Report to accompany House Resolution 215, resolution providing for consideration of the bill H.R. 45 to repeal the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act and health care-related provisions and the Health Care and Education Reconciliation Act of 2010. Report to accompany House Resolution 216, resolution providing for consideration of the bill H.R. 1062 to improve the consideration by the Securities and Exchange Commission of the costs and benefits of its regulations and orders.
They are referred to the House calendar and ordered printed.
The chair will now entertain requests for 1-minute speeches. For what purpose does the gentleman from Colorado seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute, despising and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize Clara Bancroft of Durango, Colorado. Clara is one of the exceptional stories to come out of our nation's complex immigration system. An Argentine by birth, Clara chose to pursue United States citizen residency and eventual citizenship. She did so entirely within the legal immigration system. Born in Las Grasitas in the Chaco province of northern Argentina in 1967, Clara was the 9th of 13 children. Her parents were poor ranchers who often struggled to afford food, and her childhood home had no electricity. When Clara was only 8 years old, she had to leave school and become the sole caretaker for her sick grandmother. After the passing of her grandmother, she moved to Buenos Aires, and at the age of 16, where she worked as a nanny and returned to school. In 2001, while working as a receptionist at the BV Group, she met her soon-to-be husband, Paul Bancroft. In February of 2002, Clara came to visit her future husband as a tourist under the U.S. Visa Waiver Program. While she was in America, that program was unexpectedly ended with Argentina. Respecting U.S. immigration law, Mrs. Bancroft returned to her home country as she worked to be able to get her visa. While still navigating the immigration system, Mr. and Mrs. Bancroft were married in October of 2002, and after nearly a year of legal battles, Mrs. Bancroft returned to the United States and reunited with her husband in January of 2003. Since coming to America, Mrs. Bancroft has learned English, and in 2008, the Bancrofts welcomed their son, Bill, into their family. On November 15, 2012, Clara took the oath of citizenship in the United States. She is a proud citizen and loves her adopted country. Mr. Speaker, it is an honor to recognize Mrs. Clara Bancroft for overcoming the adversity and achieving the American dream by becoming a citizen of the United States of America. With that, I yield back.
Thank you. For what purpose does the gentleman from New Mexico seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, the news that carbon dioxide in the atmosphere passed 400 parts per million for the first time in human history should serve as a wake-up call that we can no longer ignore the threat of climate change. Now, I know there are some that still don't believe in science and still believe that climate change isn't real. But we should all agree that this is a problem that we have to confront. Addressing climate change is not only important for our environment, but also for our economy. Creating a clean energy economy powered by solar, wind, and other renewable resources will spur new jobs, new technological advancements, and grow our economy. In order to ensure that we can compete and win in the global market to develop clean energy technologies, it is vital that we have a trained workforce ready to work. That's why this week I reintroduced the Community College Energy Training Act, legislation to support clean energy job training programs in our community colleges. Community colleges play an integral role in training and retraining Americans who want to get ahead and learn the skills that will open up new opportunities. By investing in training programs in the clean energy sector, we can lay the foundation for success in a field that holds such great potential and prepare our students for the good jobs for tomorrow.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Texas seek recognition?
Ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, there's a troubling pattern here in Washington. When wrongdoing occurs involving federal government employees, blame falls away from the White House and the wrongdoers get a pass. No one is held accountable. Exhibit A, Fast and Furious. Government walks guns into Mexico. 2 Americans and hundreds of Mexican nationals are killed. White House blames Bush and a low-level employee. Employee resigns, government gets a pass. Exhibit B, Benghazi. Government denies requests for support before and during the attack. 4 Americans are killed. Investigation is bungled. Blame placed on a YouTube video. 1 federal employee placed on leave but still getting a paycheck. Government gets a pass. Exhibit C, IRS target list. IRS unlawfully targets conservative organizations. Blame placed on low-level employee, and we're waiting for accountability. Exhibit D, DOJ subpoenas reporters' phone records to silence a leak. Attorney General Holder recuses himself. We're waiting for who's responsible. Mr. Speaker, this is a disturbing pattern. The so-called most transparent administration in history appears to be obstinately blocking the truth from the American public. America is tired of unaccountable escape artists in the federal government. This ought not to be, but that's just the way it is.
For what purpose does the gentleman from California seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, today I rise to honor Military Mental Health Awareness Day. Mental health issues continue to carry a significant stigma in our country, but it's time we recognize the challenges that many current service members and veterans are facing, and we work to address their needs. Post-traumatic stress is all too prevalent in our service members and veterans. As a country, beyond partisanship, we must come together to tackle this issue. Our men and women in uniform deserve our dedication, just as we ask them to dedicate their lives to our nation's service. In San Diego, nearly 5,000 veterans were treated for post-traumatic stress in 2011, according to the VA. And we're fortunate in San Diego to have medical institutions that provide innovative models of care to our service members and veterans, and it is my hope that with further attention to this issue, we can bring some of those standards of care to the rest of the country. Mr. Speaker, I ask my colleagues to help me bring attention to this issue by working with service providers, counselors, and military groups in their communities as we continue to honor the sacrifices these service members made for us. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back.
Time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from Pennsylvania rise?
Mr. Speaker, request unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute, revise and extend.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, today the House Agriculture Committee is marking up a 5-year Farm Bill reauthorization, the Federal Agriculture Reform and Risk Management Act of 2013, or FARM Act. The FARM Act is a common-sense package of agricultural reforms that will save taxpayers nearly $40 billion while strengthening the economic health of our family farms and small businesses. The bill is the product of a multi-year policy assessment designed to modernize federal agriculture policy and achieve substantial deficit reduction. The Farm Act delivers on both fronts while offering American agriculture the tools to grow and prosper. The bill reduces regulatory burden on small businesses and makes needed reforms to nutrition assistance programs. It will help protect our forests and better manage our lands. Mr. Speaker, we can no longer allow partisan gridlock to prevent this reauthorization from becoming law. This bill is good for the economy. It promotes jobs and growth. It achieves deficit reduction, and it secures the ability of the American agriculture to continue providing the safest and most affordable food supply in the world. And I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Hawaii seek recognition? Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor the brave men and women who serve in our police forces. Every day, police officers put their own lives in danger in order to keep our families safe. Many have made the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty. This week, we celebrate